This video has been designed to show you and demonstrate how to get completed task data out of WorkfloPlus and push that through into Zapier to integrate with other systems. In the example I'm doing today, we're going to get some task data out into a Google Sheet. Before we set up the Zap, it's important to ensure that your workflow, in this case we're looking at the pump pressure workflow Zap workflow, contains steps with tagged data within them. So if I click on this completed job here and just go to view, if we just come down and look at some of the step metadata here, you can see that that has a tag associated with it. The tags are added as part of the workflow build, but in order to pull specific values out of your completed job, it's important that the steps are tagged in your workflow build. In this example, we're going to push some data out into a Google Sheet. So before you set up your Zap, it's important to create a worksheet within Google, give it a name, and decide what you want your columns to be called, what data you're going to be pulling out, because Zapier will look for this sheet and these columns when it pulls out this tagged data from your workflow. So if we now go into Zapier and hit Create New Zap, before we begin we need to connect the Zap to the WorkfloPlus connector. So we hit Trigger, and you can either search for WorkfloPlus or it will appear here, and we hit WorkfloPlus. We then need to choose the trigger event. In this case it will be a completed task, so we click that, and then we need to select the account that we're pulling the data from. This account here is CX Training. My Zap is already connected to that, so if I click on there you can see CX Training here. If you're setting this up for the first time, we can provide you with an API key. So you click New Account, and then you would just enter the API key in here to connect your team. So let's go ahead and select the WorkfloPlus CX Training team as such. Let's just wait for that to connect. Then we hit Continue. And that takes us to a configuration screen where we can enter the workflow ID. This is optional. If you want the ability to choose different workflows or data from different workflows, then you can leave that blank. We can then continue again, and we can now test to see whether or not that Zapier is picking up job data. And you can see it's pulled in 3 tasks. I'm just going to click on task C. This was a task that I did quite recently, just to check the dates. If you're not sure whether it's the latest task, just hit refresh and it should look for the jobs. I think there's a more recent one. Here we are. This is probably task F. And yeah, so that job was completed at 1500 hours today. So that's the job I'm going to run with. If you're wanting to pull out images and videos from Zapier, please make sure that you've run a recent job, because there is a limit of about 1 hour when any temporary URLs are deactivated. So always make sure you've got a very recent job. And we'll continue with task F. So once we've connected to the team and we've chosen a task, we then need to decide what action we want Zapier to perform. In this case we're going to Google Sheets because we've already created our sheet here, and we're going to choose the action event. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a row. So if we just jump back across here, we're going to populate rows. We're going to just fill out this sheet here with rows of data. So we're going to create a spreadsheet row. So we just scroll down the list and select Create Spreadsheet Row, and then we need to connect to the Google Drive that hosts that spreadsheet, and then we can continue and select the drive, which is my Google Drive, select the spreadsheet, which is the same spreadsheet, it will find it, Zapier test sheet, and the worksheet's going to be sheet 1, which is aligned with this part here. So we know where we want the data to go. I don't want the dates that are being imported to adjust. If you wanted to, you can change the time zone on dates being imported. So here you can see the 4 columns that I had in my spreadsheet. So what we do is we simply click on each column and then we decide what value from that completed task that we've pulled in we want to include. Now I'm going to search for the word value because that will pick up all the data that I've entered as part of my job. So we're just going to pop a few bits in here. Oops, sorry, 2 in 1. Click on here and we'll put in location, and we'll put in pump ID, and then finally we'll put the pump pressure in, which is another reading that I took in the job, pump pressure value. All right, so what we've done there is we've assigned each of those step values to each of those columns. We then hit continue. Zapier will want to test, and if we hit test step, what Zapier will do is it will send a row to that Google Sheet. So if we come back up here, you can see that data has now appeared in my Google Sheet. We come back to the Zap, and then we can hit publish at this point to make the Zap live. Okay, so that Zap is now live. If we come back to our main section here, at the moment that's not got a title, so we would then click on the 3 dots at the end and we can rename it. Just give it a name, and that's now a published Zap. So any further jobs now run against that particular task in V3 will start populating through into that spreadsheet.